What's going on, everyone? So, Christian Koloko, we're still waiting to see what happens with his contract. Now, it's been reported that he signed, and rumor going around is that he's going to sign a two-way, but we do not have a definitive answer yet. We do not know. It just, based on reports, is, hey, he and the Lakers have agreed to terms to a contract. Are the Lakers working on a trade? Is it ultimately going to be a two-way? I do kind of question, like, if it is a two-way, why haven't you made that announcement? I mean, usually you see guys, they sign, and within the hour, you hear, okay, he signed to a training camp deal, or he signed to a two-way contract, or he signed to this. It's been like 24 hours, and we haven't heard anything, right? Everything's just stagnant right now. But going under the assumption that he does sign a two-way deal. Again, maybe the Lakers are working on a trade. Maybe the Lakers are trying to, just do their due diligence. And if nothing is available, nothing plays out, then maybe they just go the two-way route. That's always a possibility. And what that would mean for Koloko is he gets basically 52 games this season as a Laker. Now, he hasn't played in really a year and a half. But missed the entire season last season, so a full year. He was dealing with the blood clots. It's amazing that he was able to overcome that, right? Because that's usually career-ending. But he was able to have the breakthrough, right? Kind of given the second chance. And I imagine he's going to take the most of it. But you also don't want to overexert him. There's also questions of how much was he actually able to work out and push himself and stay in shape to the level in which it required for the actual NBA, right? Because yes, he's getting over it now, but is he just now starting to get into the swing of things? Or has he been able to do, intense trainings and workouts over the course of this year and a half he's been out, right? Because you got to remember, he's been dealing with a medical condition and a serious one, right? So if he's just kind of been working out the last month, might take him some time. He might need to kind of get his legs and feet wet, right? Now, in his defense, I imagine the Lakers aren't looking for him to come in and play 30 minutes a game. The Lakers are probably looking at him to come in, play, 10 to 15 minutes a game at most. Maybe on the occasional night it bumps up to 20 minutes. But you still have Jackson Hayes. Christian Wood is going to be back eventually. Anthony Davis, as much as he doesn't want to play the five full-time, he's still going to play the five on occasion. So you're just looking for him kind of as insurance, but I do imagine that the Lakers are going to give him the opportunity. Still don't really buy him on a two-way, but it very well could happen. The only reason I don't really buy it is because he had other options, and several that were more than willing to bring him on the actual roster. And more likely than not, give him consistent playing time, right? If he signs a two-way with the Lakers, then he's probably not getting consistent playing time, and he can't play the full season, right? He could be healthy and be ready to play all 82 games. He can't, right? Playoffs, all of that, right? Like, he can only play 52 games during the course of the regular season, and so what if he is really good? What if he is great? That could be an issue for the Lakers they have to figure out. But it also solves a couple things, right? And it would make sense to kind of put him on a two-way so you're not stuck with this, like, abundance of centers. Because you got to think, right? Like, if the Lakers bring him on the actual roster and they keep Christian Wood and they keep Jackson, like, you have now Christian Wood, Jackson Hayes, Koloko, Anthony Davis, all that can play the center spot. And Anthony Davis is going to play some center, right? Christian Wood, yeah, you can play him at the 4, but if Anthony Davis, like, LeBron probably starts at the 4, LeBron probably plays 15, 20 minutes at the 4. Anthony Davis probably going to play 15, 20 minutes at the 4. Right? So that leaves you like 8 to maybe at best 15 minutes at the 4 spot. And Christian Wood, you're going to play him that? But what about Rui, right? Like, because if LeBron's playing minutes at the 3, then that takes minutes away from Rui and Connect and these other guys that can play the 3, right? Like, you kind of have this logjam now in your front court when everyone gets back and healthy. That's not counting, do the Lakers end up going and pulling off a trade? Because I think you still need to go get a Valanciunas or, some veteran center. Now, in that trade, in that move, you may be able to give up, maybe you're giving up both Christian Wood and a Jackson Hayes. That's always a possibility, right? Try to clear up some roster spots, maybe bring in like a Jordan Goodwin or something, right? Like, it's always a possibility that a trade ends up, and I'm not even talking about a trade necessarily right now. I'm talking about, a center down the line. Valanciunas has been heavily linked to the Lakers. Maybe that ends up working out, right? But you could also look at Koloko, is that if he's on a two-way, and going in the assumption that that is the case, then his 52 games that he could play essentially leads you right into the trade deadline, right? First, so he could play essentially 40 games, right? Into the trade deadline, and then kind of save him those other 10 to 12 games for, in case you need him in a pinch the last half of the season, right? But essentially, he basically could just play throughout the first half of the season. You pull off a trade for Valanciunas or whatever, and then he just kind of spends the year developing in the G League. Again, maybe you kind of bring him up in spots. Anthony Davis gets the night off. It's like, okay, let's bring him in. Or Valanciunas gets the night off. Okay, let's bring him in. Right? Also, what it does is that also takes you into Christian Wood. Right? Now you don't have to rush and, hurry Christian Wood back. Right? Because, look, Christian Wood is expected to miss 8 weeks, but that's just when he's going to be reevaluated. That doesn't mean that he's going to be back in 8 weeks. It just means he's going to be reevaluated in 8 weeks, and we'll see. I mean, he could be out 2-3 months potentially, right? So if the Lakers are okay in the front court, well, now you don't have that pressing need. Now you don't have that concerning issue of oh man, we have to bring Christian Wood back, dude. We're struggling here. We need you. We don't have that forward or that center, right? Well, now you're good. You can kind of take your time, get into the trade deadline, see what's available, get into the season, let Christian Wood, hey, take your time, no rush, right? We want to make sure when you get back, you play the rest of the season and you're healthy and you're 100%, you're good to go, right? Gives you kind of that leeway, going into the season, right? So that's another kind of pro to signing him. And then also, with Jackson Hayes, not only does it beg the question of what does this mean for Jackson Hayes, right? Is Koloko, because based on the reports, the Lakers are supposed to give Koloko a real chance and opportunity in the front court. What does this mean for Jackson Hayes? Is Jackson Hayes now going to be the third big? Are they going to split minutes, right? So again, say Anthony Davis plays 20 minutes at the center position and 15 at the four. So now you got 28 minutes that Jackson Hayes and Koloko can split. So maybe they're both splitting 15 minutes a game or 14 minutes a game, right? Maybe one night, depending on the matchup, Hayes is getting 20 and, Koloko's getting 8, and then you're switching it, right? Do you kind of go a night on, night off, night on, night off, right? Koloko, you get this game, and then next game Hayes gets that. That could also kind of stretch out the 52 games for you, right? But also what it does is that Hayes is a free agent after this season, and bringing in Koloko, you can kind of just swap Koloko with Hayes, right? So Hayes contract's up, Lakers let him walk. You got Koloko on the two-way. You make all your moves. You do everything you're going to do in the offseason. And then it's like, okay, Koloko, bring him on, and now he's your 14th or 15th spot, right? You're bringing him on, and he basically is just swapping out for Jackson Hayes, right? That would make some more sense, right? Because now you have Koloko kind of spinning this year, kind of getting his body, his mind, his health right? You kind of just sliding him in spots, just sliding him where need be. And then next season, it's like, okay, now it's going to ramp up. Right now, you're going to be the backup center, or you're going to be, the third center, but you're still going to get 15 minutes consistently every night. And we're going to start molding you and shaping you for, let's say the Lakers go get Valanciunas, right? Well, when Valanciunas has got 2 more years at most on his contract. So you're going to spend this next year or two developing you. Valanciunas is gone, and now it's your show, right? You can kind of do that thing with Koloko. But, it's going to be interesting to see where he signs, because I still am of the mindset that I think a trade is still very likely. I still think a trade could be right around the corner. And look, maybe it's not necessarily right now, right? Like, it's very possible that they sign him to a 2-way deal. They, at the trade deadline, do the Valanciunas trade or whatever. And then maybe they do like a Jeremy Grant trade or whatever. And now they have a need for a roster spot. And it's like, let's bring in, Koloko. Let's bring in, Jordan Goodwin, whatever. It's always a possibility, right? And the Lakers kind of use a trade later on, especially if Koloko looks good. Because that's a real thing. Like, what happens if Koloko is really good for the Lakers? What if he looks really good? What if he is coming in and, in limited minutes, he's giving you, whatever, 8 and 6 with 2 blocks a game. It's just like, man, like, we got to keep this guy on the court. You might think 8 and 6, like, with 2 blocks, that's not a lot. Well, it is if you're only playing 15 minutes a game. It is if you're, you're the 9th, 10th guy on the roster. That's huge, right? Like, so I don't know. There's still a lot of just questions and unknowns, and we'll see how it plays out. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass question to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you think, like, hey, Koloko 2-way makes perfect sense, kind of lines up perfectly, get you into the trade deadline, get you in a position where you don't have to rush Christian Wood? Do you think, no, like, you got to bring him on the actual roster? You got to pull off trade. You got to do something. You can't just have him, playing half the season, and then especially what happens if he's good. Now you're basically having to not let go, but essentially, because he's not going to be able to play on the main roster, a guy that you need. It's something to keep in mind. But again, how do you feel? Whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.